Good morning, my friends. This is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. I have finished the book of Nehemiah, and it has been such a tremendous book to see someone whose heart was broken for his people, someone who was obedient to the Lord, and someone who was faithful to the end, to the calling, to what God had given him to do. And this was Nehemiah. Nehemiah had a very good life. He was also serving the king in the place where he was living. But when he heard about his people, because there was a remnant that came to see him, and they said to him, the walls are broken down of Jerusalem and the gates are burned, and his heart was stirred with such compassion that he started crying. But the first place he ran to was to the Lord. And it said, he ran to the Lord and he said, I beseech thee, O Lord, in chapter 1, verse 5, God of heaven, the great and terrible God that keepeth covenant and mercy for them that love him and observe his commandments. Let your ear now be attentive and your eyes open, that you will hear the prayer of your servant, which I'm praying to you this day. And it was just tremendous to see him just running to the Lord with this very deep, compassionate heart that was breaking. And then the Lord gave him wisdom. The Lord gave him a work to do. He put it on his heart that he should go and do this work for the Lord. So when we read about Nehemiah and we read how he went, he searched it out, he got people around him, and they all rose up and they wanted to rebuild their walls and the gates that were burned down. The enemy heard about it. Always the enemy will hear about it. In chapter 3, we read that everybody rose up and they started wanting to build, and they each had a work that they were going to do. And then in chapter 4, the enemy comes. And I said, wow, Lord, that is so true, because when we're doing a work for the Lord, the enemy will come. The enemy will hear, because there is an enemy of our soul. Of course, we know the devil is behind it all, and he pushes people to do things, to say things, to discourage you, to feel despised. And one time someone was speaking these words to me that I felt like, wow, I was being so despised. I was so hurt inside with this negativity. But at the same time, I've forgiven, because it says to forgive trespasses of others so that the Lord will forgive us. We need to forgive. Sometimes forgive as they are speaking, because the minute you forgive, you are obeying the words of the Lord that he said, forgive them, for they know not what they're doing. And he's the one, with his example, the Lord Jesus Christ on the cross forgave them. Even though they never asked him forgiveness, he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they're doing. And then at the same time, when he finished the work, he had forgiven them. He forgave them for what they were doing. So we are called to forgive. And these enemies, I wrote down their names because it's in chapter 4 and verse 7. It says, Sanballat, Tobiah, the Arabians, the Ammonites, the Ashdodites, heard the walls of Jerusalem were made up and that the breaches began to be stopped. Then they were very angry and they were despising them. And the people were almost discouraged. But Nehemiah told them, don't be discouraged with what they're saying, because the Lord is with us. We are doing a good work. And he didn't even take time to meet with them, to speak with them. He just kept doing the work of the Lord. And when I was reading that, I said, wow, John 10:10 says the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. That's all the enemy knows to do. And Jesus said in Matthew 28:19 and 10, go into all the world, preach the gospel, and I am going with you. The Lord is with us in the midst of people despising us, people being angry with us, people speaking untruthful things about us, things that are lies. And we can just look to the Lord and say, okay, Lord, you've given me a work to do. I want to finish it. I love that, because the Lord, he who started the work in us will complete it. He has made us, we are his workmanship. Ephesians 2:10 says, We are his workmanship, created unto good works, which the Lord has prepared for us from the foundation of the world. We have works to do, that we need to close our ears to the enemy and open our ears to the Lord. What is he telling you to do today? Do not look at the enemy. Do not look at people that are despising you and saying these things unto you, because they want to stop the work the Lord is doing in you today. And I love the verses that John 15:5, where he says, abide in me. Jesus said, abide in me and I in you, because without me you can do nothing. But with him we will bring much fruit. We will bring forth much fruit. And then I love it to connect with Philippians 4:13, where he says, but with Christ, I can do all things. Without him, I can do nothing. Without him, I can't do anything. But with Christ, I can do all things. And so I want to just encourage you. And then when you get to chapter 7, you will see all the people they numbered the people. And then Nehemiah's beautiful verse that I have given to so many people. And it's in chapter 8 and verse 10. And he said unto them, go your way, eat the fat and drink the sweet, and send portions unto them for whom nothing is prepared. For this day is holy unto the Lord. They had just finished the work. They finished the work in 52 days. It is so clear. It tells you in Nehemiah, when you're reading, they finished this great work because everybody was working together. And it says, for this day is holy unto the Lord. Be ye not sorry, for the joy of the Lord is your strength. I have written that verse to so many people saying, let the joy of the Lord today be your strength. Let his joy be our strength. And you know what happened? When they finished the work, Nehemiah started the work and finished it. The Lord wants us to complete what we have started, because many times people will start. I see it in Bible study, just with the ladies. We come together, but I have a remnant of women that have stayed faithful, because we can start something so excitedly, but not finish it. So many projects we can start and not finish. Just leave it. And I am so guilty of that. I have a puzzle that I started, and I have done a few puzzles. I put them around the house and I just use them as placemats and this and that. But there's one puzzle that I started and it just got overwhelming, and I put it aside. I have not finished it yet. But I love to finish the work that I've started. Many times when the Lord has given us things to do, we need to finish, because that is when the joy of the Lord comes. His joy is our strength as we're working. His joy is our strength as we're facing enemies. And then when we get to chapter, we will see the joy of the Lord. In chapter 12, verse 43, I believe, it says, also that day they offered great sacrifices. When they finished the work, the people offered great sacrifices and rejoiced. 1. For God had made them rejoice. 2. And great joy. 3. The wives also and the children rejoiced. 4. So that the joy of Jerusalem was heard even afar off. In this one chapter, 5 times it says they rejoiced with joy, and they rejoiced, and the joy 5 times in one verse, chapter 12, verse 43 of Nehemiah, because the joy of the Lord came. They finished the work. And then you will read his prayer, because he's praying such a prayer unto the Lord. And I want to finish with Hebrews, because this joy is an incredible joy that makes us run our race. Because Jesus in Hebrews 12, our example, and I love this. We are surrounded with enemies, yes, but it does not matter, the enemy, because we are surrounded with such a cloud of witnesses that in chapter 12 of Hebrews, after chapter 11, reading all the faith chapter of these people, and also others that we don't even know the names, and those that have gone before us, those that have loved the Lord. And I know I can mention my daddy, because he was one that is part of this cloud of witnesses now. And in chapter 12, it says, wherefore, seeing we are also compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which does so easily beset us. Let us run with patience the race that is set before us. Let us run the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus. Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross. Jesus said, take up your cross and follow me. We have a cross. We need to endure the cross for the joy that's coming, for the joy that's set before us. That was set before him. He endured the cross, despising the shame, and he sat down at the right hand, excuse me, of the throne of God. So today we have an example. It's the Lord Jesus Christ. Let us not lose heart. Let us not grow weary, for our redemption is drawing nigh. Jesus said, yes, in this world you will have troubles, but I have overcome the world. And let us run the race that is set before us. And the Lord Jesus Christ as our example, following him every step of the way, taking our eyes off of people, following him, knowing there's an enemy that's constantly trying to discourage us, keeping our eyes on Jesus, and finishing this race set before us. And the joy of the Lord will be our strength. Nehemiah 8:10. The joy of the Lord, may it be your strength today with whatever you're facing. Finish the work. Look unto Jesus. Do not give up. Do not grow weary. You will get the reward from the Lord, because the joy of the Lord already is our strength today. The Lord bless you today.